Thank you very much for coming back once again. We are going to continue our session. Thank you for coming back once again. We're going to continue our session, and this session is on teachers' responsibilities. In the previous slides, if you want to catch up on the previous session, just play back the video which follows this one, or upload the PowerPoint, press F5. The recording on the PowerPoint presentation will be running. We have looked at what your roles are, and we looked at a number of things that you'll be doing in addition to your teaching role. You'll be an administrator, you'll be an assessor, you'll be a counselor, you'll be a needs identifier, advisor, and so forth. I'd like you to look at that list, and by now I presume that you'll have written up some materials that shows what you've learned, or helping you to answer some of the questions in your own project. Make sure that portfolio you are using, which we sent you, which came from the exam board, is properly used. Now let's continue and look at your teacher's responsibilities. In this session, we'll consider the following. It's important that you follow legislative, regulatory, and best practice guidance. Like any industry, the teaching industry or education industry has laws that govern it. And you find that for every provision, you must follow those guidelines. For example, we have safeguarding policies. We have a professionalism conduct. How you conduct yourself, what does the law say about teachers' conduct, how you relate to a student and to the teacher, and many other areas which must be found in the manual given to you called the tutor handbook. Every establishment will give you a tutor handbook or staff handbook. The laws that governs your industry will be there, or legislatives will be there. Make sure you find out what it is. And as a matter of fact, I would like you to begin to look at the government sites, education department sites, what sort of laws they're looking at. Since I know a number of you are studying in the UK, you can look at the UK system. Peradventure, if you're a distant learner, you also want to apply to own country, you need to look at what kind of legislations that governs your education industry. Create inclusive learning opportunities that meet learners' individual needs. At initial assessment, you'd found that when you carried it out, each individual had their own learning needs, and one of the primary learning need is the way a learner learns. There's a VAC system that we use which identifies whether you are an audio learner or visual learner or kinesthetic. In each of these situations, you as a tutor, you have a responsibility to create a lesson that is inclusive, meaning every candidate on the program must come out as having been serviced properly, meeting their needs. Very critical. Keep up to date with teaching practice and subject knowledge. Membership with the IFL in England can help you keep up to date, because there's some of the materials posted on those site organizations that can inform you. And also keep attending CPD programs for teaching. And if you are serving on in a particular program which comes from an exam board, they do actually send you materials or send you timetables when they are putting up topics on certain areas of assessment or what you should do, new lessons, new materials. Make sure you update yourself. It's your responsibility. Some of this, in this information age, you can find on the internet. Sometimes I use YouTube, some credible sources of information, some credible sources of workshops. I can use that. Try to keep yourself up to date with the teaching practice. What's happening? What are the changes? What is happening in the key stages? Because even if you're not teaching the younger people, it's better for you to understand where the foundation of all the adults is coming from, because it's particularly going to be teaching the further education and higher education. It's better to understand where the foundation is coming from as well. So update yourself with those things. It's very important as a teacher. Remember, we talked about record keeper as some of the roles that you'll be performing. Maintain accurate records. When grades are being reported, for example, we have predicted grades, we have actual grades which people have attained. You must record them accurately. What do we mean accurately? For example, if candidate A is candidate A, B, C, D name, has a merit, it's got to be against the person properly. But sometimes if you make an error of entering a wrong record there, the record is not accurate. So make sure that all the records, grades are in place, the actual details about the candidate, the progress reports, and many other records that you're supposed to be keeping to inform your practice. Mind you, you'll be working in a team. You'll be your line manager, you've got fellow tutors, you've got the exam board, you've got the safeguarding escalation scheme, and so forth. It is these records that can inform any of these entities should they require to look at some records. You find that teaching is not in isolation. It is within the holistic community, and everything that we are doing as teachers will inform other sections or sectors of their community or business community. Another one is uphold the integrity of the qualifications you deliver. What do we mean here? Every qualification must have guided learning hours, directed learning hours, must have deadlines, must be taught in a way that actually candidates will be able to meet the criteria. You shouldn't go outside the syllabus too much. Sometimes going outside the syllabus can just bring some information to inform, but if you miss to teach the actual syllabus and you concentrate on things which are outside the syllabus, you put your learners at a disadvantage. So the integrity of the program must be followed to the letter. And you find that in upholding the integrity of qualifications also involves how you deal with exam boards. Exam boards set criteria, and exam boards also set types of evidences they would like to see produced. Some exam boards, they create room for you to innovate auditable evidence which you can present as a way of meeting criteria. So when you have a definite agreement within your setting in liaison with the exam board and the internal staff, when you have your own standardization, when these things are approved, stay in that boundary. You find that as a teacher, these things will come out very clearly as to whether or not you follow the path. When you do a summative assessment, submitting your work, that's when we'll see whether this work was properly followed. But the good news is that if you are involved, in fact, you should be involved in standardization at one level or another. Standardization does pick up some errors, because in a standardization we look at the standards that we agreed and how you are performing. And the internal verification also picks up some errors before work is sent out. So you find that one of your responsibilities really in this one is integrity of the qualification you deliver. And this is why we award certificates, diplomas, or whatever a sort of attainment a candidate has gone to, is because there has been integrity in the delivery and also to assessment. There is also this point which I'd like to look at with you. Cooperate and communicate with other professionals. It's your responsibility. You don't have to wait to be asked. You know the escalation. Once you get results, where should you take them? Take them to the examiner who enters them in the database. Once you have materials that are supposed to be delivered, what do? You must communicate to somebody in your department who does reprography. They can reproduce them for you. Because if you don't do this, you find that even your work will be affected. You won't be moving smoothly. So it's very important. It's your responsibility to be able to do these things. You should also cooperate with the line manager when they ask you. Some things you know when they're supposed to do them. Some things can be asked of you. Information can be demanded from you. It could be at an awkward time or an appropriate time, regardless of the time, as long as it's demanded, because it's needed to be input into another system to make the teaching environment smooth or conducive for everybody. So don't hold back information. Be professional. Identify and reduce barriers. This is a teacher's responsibility. Interesting one. Identify and reduce barriers to learning. Some learners that you're going to have will come with a backlog of barriers. What does it mean, backlog of barriers? People, when they start a learning journey, either from home or in a formal environment, they encounter situations which discourages them from learning. Which discourages them from what? From learning. That discouragement becomes a barrier. When they proceed to the next level or to do something else in the same area, they have that on the back of the mind. Because I had that experience, therefore, that experience might repeat itself. For example, here's a candidate who, in maybe the very first experience to be in a classroom, they raised up their hand to give a contribution, and the class wasn't good enough. She or he was laughed at and ridiculed and bullied because of speaking out on some topic which they thought they knew. Thereby they close their heart. They close. They could never speak in public again. So each time they go to a lesson, no matter how much they know information, they will not participate in discussions. Now, if you can't participate, your learning is hindered. That's a barrier. So we need to address those ones. We need to affirm students. We need to appraise them. We need to look for positive areas and say, wow, that was fantastic. What you said was great. Slowly they'll open up, because when you begin to interact, you go into professional discussion. Professional discussion, people talk. But if somebody can't talk in a class, they can't participate. So you as a teacher, as a trainer, you have a big role. There are many other barriers to learning which you can identify, and I think there's a module that you're going to be doing, looking at length in these ones. And one of the tasks I can give you here is list down some barriers to learning that you've encountered either in your personal life or in somebody else's. You can do this for 10 minutes. You can pause this video for 10 minutes. Make a list of barriers to learning. Maintain professionalism. Professionalism also involves the way you dress, the way you talk, where you eat. Are you allowed to eat in class? Are you allowed to drink in class? Are you allowed to dress in a way that is seductive? No. Are you allowed to dress in a way that is not appropriate? No. Are you allowed to touch in a way that's not appropriate? No. Professionalism, you must keep a professional distance. Some of the things that we can look at professional distance, for example, here is my colleague. We are talking. I want to say thank you very much. I shake a hand. Shake my hand. There's a distance between her and me. Let me just bring up my video there. In professionalism, it could be a student. You say, well done. I'm not going to be going now, well done, to hug. That's not professional. It's not in the professional conduct as a tutor. It's better you say, well done, thank you very much. Make sure you keep a distance. That way you find that your journey to teach will be scot-free in terms of other accusations or complaints. Because a candidate can raise a complaint simply because you didn't touch them properly. Because you're not supposed to be touching. If you keep on touching, you make mistakes. Those things must be avoided. Professionalism. How do you arrange your materials? Do you go to a classroom with papers scattered everywhere? You don't know where your stuff is? You must have a folder where all things are well organized. That's professionalism. And the way you speak, the language you use is very important in teaching. It shows how professional you are. and use the right jargon in the right context. In chemistry, there's jargon for chemistry. Biology, there's jargon for biology. Physics, etc. So if you stick to those kind of things in a professional environment, you're becoming across as professional. There are a lot of things that you have to look at in terms of professionalism. One of the tasks I'll give you here, which can is an underpinning knowledge in one of your modules, the teacher's responsibilities. I think it's Unit 1. You must understanding relationships. Yeah, you must create a mind map. I just want you to do this and list out what sort of things would show professionalism, and on the second mind map, list things which shows unprofessionalism, so that you can compare the two. Some of the things you'll find that you've been doing them without you really knowing that you've been doing them. But after this session, you should be able to improve using your reflective journal. You write how your professional conduct was, where you can improve. You can also reflect on why did candidate A respond badly. Sometimes the deodorant you wear, sometimes you don't wear nothing. So there's a kind of environment, a certain smell that's created around yourself. You find that students are repelled. It's good to look at the hygiene area as well. Professionalism is a very strong area. It makes a difference where you can become an effective teacher or not. Be a positive role model. Very, very interesting. As a teacher, you find that in the classroom, outside the classroom, you still remain sir or madam. Therefore, the moment you step into the industry of teaching, if you're doing shopping in one of the supermarkets, remember a student might just pop around. Alas, if they find you the way you dressed is not really acceptable. The way you conduct yourself is horrible. That will be a tuition outside the classroom. When they meet you in the classroom, students, they don't have zip upper lip. They'll say, I saw you, this is how you shouted at that person. So they begin to relate to you as a role model. If teacher can do that, I can do it also. Outside the classroom, very critical, I want to emphasize on that point. You must be seen at all times consistent in your behavior in your learning institution where you teach and outside when you teach. Be consistent, be professional, be polite. Have that polite conduct, because every time a teacher is doing something, he or she is teaching. When they see you as doing things, you are a role model. They'll copy you. Definitely they will copy you. When you go to the classroom or in the learning institution, you wear that professionalism. Don't put it off when you leave, because everything about you as a teacher is you. And you come out when you come across to the people, it must show that this one is very different, is a professional teacher. I remember my mother, she came to me one day and said, "You're a good teacher." Well, so I said, "Wow, me a good teacher? I'm not teaching that much. I was just building my career to do, or I was going to be a scientist, etc." But my mother perceived a teacher in me, and I followed it through. And this is all I've done through my life. I've done businesses and teaching, training, etc. So some things come across as you carry yourself. Now, here we go. The other areas of you being a role model, I'd like you to identify them. I think I've talked about behavior a lot, because in this time and age, young people need good role models, and teachers can be that anchor to their progress. Now, let me just get on to this one. Promote mutual respect with and between learners. If you've taught amongst young people in further education, you find that sometimes there are issues of mistrust amongst themselves, quarrels, etc. One of the roles a teacher must have is to promote good relationships. Promote mutual respect. Good relationships simply means student to students. That's a relationship they have in the classroom and outside the classroom. You promote respect between that. There's some workshops that you can do. Maybe the icebreakers at every beginning of the lesson as a way of opening up to the class in that morning or afternoon session. Icebreakers are very important. Don't just pick up any icebreaker. Pick up some icebreakers that can inculcate good morals, good values, and you can imbue them, because one of the roles that you have, you look there, promote mutual respect with and between learners, which means yourself and the learners and between learners themselves. Bring up some good case scenario. What would it be if you, as a student, said, "Sir, you teach very well. How would I feel?" "Oh, sir, you feel good." Now, when I feel good, would I teach even better? They'll say, "Yes, you teach better." So you teaching them, they should respect you. And now also the other way around. If I come to you, my student, I say, "Oh, fantastic, you're a great student. Do you remember that question you answered very well? This is great." I know there are some questions that the person did not answer very well. I don't need to dwell on that. I know they didn't do that very well. I'm going to appraise them on the things they did very well. Then after they feel so good, I'm promoting mutual respect. Then I say, "Oh, when you're free, why don't we have a chat? Say at break time, I'm going to give an appointment for 20 minutes or 5 minutes. They come over to you, say, "Oh, I just want to help you answer the other questions which didn't come out as good as you expected. So you can answer this one that way, you can do that way. So in the future, go and look at this. This is a formative assessment. It's not a summative. You are coaching them through." You find that through that interaction, students begin to build confidence in you, and confidence in themselves arises. But when you take out a situation whereby if somebody gets something wrong, you tear them down, I'm telling you, that's going to come back to you. So have a look at that. We just looked at some other areas on professionalism. Let's examine some of these pictures. Which of the following appear to be the most professional? I'd like you to review this independently. Look at each picture. I just want to draw your attention to this picture here. Over there. Can you see that? The teacher is hugging a student. That's not professional. The teacher is having a drink in the classroom. That's not professional. Look at that. The teacher is showing off something on the chest there. That is not very professional. And also eating a hamburger in the classroom, not very professional. And also the dressing, look at that. I mean this one. We've got to review all these. Now we look at this gentleman. He looks well dressed, casually. Yes, a folder there. It looks presentable compared to the others over there. We look at another man here. A teacher, avoid wearing coats in the classroom. Maybe he's doing a demonstration of some lesson, but a coat is not as good. Well, okay, professional reading, yes, that's encouraging, but what about your hair? You'll be scratching your hair will be a mess. Are you going to comb it? Make sure you remember to comb it. That lady, looks all right, yeah, looks better. A folder, I think, nicely dressed. So as a professional, you must look the role. You must do what? Look the role you are playing as a teacher. You must look the role you are playing as a teacher. Don't just pop in with a tie over there. I keep telling a story of one of the teachers that I had a long time ago when I was doing my primary school. On those days, there was, these big collars, really big collars. And I won't mention names. They looked, it was in their style, it was in their time, so it's okay, they could wear that. But one thing I didn't like was the smell of beer they drank last night. So as a professional, make sure you can have your fun, but when you're going to the classroom, your dressing must be professional. Even the smell around you must be professional. So look at those factors. I've been long in teaching. I haven't been perfect, but I've developed over years. I've evolved over years, becoming better and better because I I look at things like this and also do a reflection on my practice. So I'd like you to take time and produce good timekeeping is very professional. Professional appearance, clothing, general appearance, very important. Organized, you must be organized. One thing I do very much is carry folders. Even on my folders on the computer, organize them accordingly, folder by folder, appropriate names. You can't just give a folder any name. You've got to find things. You must be organized, because when you're organized, you can do your job properly. Motivated and engaging. When you go in the classrooms, don't have a diminished disposition. You must be engaging. You must be motivating. You must make them feel that they're in a class that is moving forward, because the teacher is engaged, is motivated. Enthusiasm must be seen. You must be confident. Confidence also comes with preparation. I gave you a rule there saying that each time you go into the classroom, never go there unprepared. You must prepare. You must read up. Even though you've been teaching the subject for many, many years, you must read up on the current affairs. When you go in a classroom, you are confident that what you're talking about is real. What you're talking about, you know it with a deeper learning. I beg your pardon. Because candidates can see through you. If the subject you're teaching, you only know little, they can see that. They can feel it. I would like you to actually, when you go there, they begin to feel the knowledge before you say it. You like that? I like it too. Knowledgeable. It links in confidence to knowledgeable. Some people who are knowledgeable are confident. They relax, they're speaking and talking with confidence about the subject. How do they arrive at that? They read continuously. They develop themselves continuously. They research, they update. They go back to the original materials. They come to the current materials. They just extrapolate. They just give themselves onto the subject, and the subject comes into them. And by that way, they can deliver it with confidence. They can deliver it in their sleep, they say. You must be willing to learn and develop. One thing that I'd like us to do is never to stop learning. Never to stop learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. Keep learning. Because the more you do that, the better you become as a teacher or trainer. So, I'll be closing in a short while, but let me give you a chance to do what you're supposed to do in this section. I'd like you to keep on developing the mind maps and put some research notes around there and inform yourself through this teaching into your assignment. Each of the sections or the units has certain projects you've got to do in order for you to pass that unit. So all this information that you're gathering, you must now relate it to the appropriate unit. There are 3 major units here that we're doing, and you can backtrack and have a look what they are. Now, legislation and regulation. Legislation, acts of parliament passed by government, breaching can be criminal offense, can be a criminal offense. Regulations, laws made under principal legislation, these 2 should be followed. Codes of practice, these set out how to best comply with the law. They are often set by professional bodies. So we are going down the list to look at what a professional must do, what a professional must look at as they go in that discipline of theirs. So teaching is governed by that. So Your role now is to find out what are the acts of parliament passed by government regarding education. What are the regulations made under principal legislations in education? Codes of practice. What are the codes of practice in my institution? What have they laid down? What should I follow? You must know this. If you haven't been given your staff handout, staff book, you must ask for it because it informs you. It's your responsibility to ask for it. It's your duty of care to ask for it because it protects you and also protects your employer from litigation. Because if you do something wrong out of ignorance, yourself and the employer will be in trouble, and you don't want to be in that situation. For today, we'll end here. We'll carry on the sessions. Now, what I'd like you to do, we have looked at professionalism, and there's a number of things we looked in there. What shows professionalism? We looked at the way you conduct yourself, dressing, looking at legislation and regulation. We have looked at also how you should develop yourself continuously. You must be knowledgeable. And I put a point myself in there outside the classroom. When you're walking in the street, you're shopping, what are you doing? How are you dressing? How are you talking to people? Because a candidate will model you as a role model. Therefore, you must be consistent inside the classroom, outside the classroom, inside your learning institution, outside the learning institution. That will protect your integrity, and the integrity of the course that you deliver must be protected. How do you do that? For the instructions laid down by the exam board as you deliver that course. Look at what they want you to do, look at the syllabus, and look at the assessment criteria, what you can do and what you cannot do for the students. This is a short summary of what we've done in this section. We'll continue. Thank you very much.